Hi everyone, this is Andrew DiCarlo with MDNA, and I'm going to go over the tab engine and how that can be used to get started with your applications this weekend. So here I am again at the KnxHx RichDataServices.com website, and if I scroll down here, this is going to be where all the resources to get started are. Again, we have our JavaScript, R, and Python open source SDKs available. If you're using any of those open source SDKs would be a great place to start, as they really help interacting with the API and keep it real simple so you can get started with the data as quick as possible. We also have our Swagger API documentation, so if you wanted to make calls to the API directly yourself, this has all the documentation you need to get going with that. And then we have the Postman Quickstart guide, which is just kind of a bunch of examples actually working with the KnxHx data that we have in this catalog. So in this video, like I said, I'm going to be looking at the tab engine. Now, if you come down to the data sets here and click on any of these, this is going to take you to the RDS Explorer. The tab engine isn't listed here. You can have it. It's going to be this KnxHx RichDataServices.com/RDS-TabEngine, and I'll put a link to this in the video here. And if you go here, this is what you're going to start at. So this is the catalog that we have. And it's the same catalog you saw at our KnxHx website, and you can just browse through here and go through the different data products that are in the catalogs there. So in this example, I'm going to be using the Small Business Administration Paycheck Protection Program loan level data. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now, if you watched the RDS Explorer video, you know that that application is looking at record level data. The tab engine is looking at aggregations, creating quick crosstabs of the data at the aggregate view. And this is going to be very useful for creating charts or graphs or things like that. The way that I would use the tab engine is I would come in here and I would just play around with the data, and once I find the data that I'm looking for, then I would just move on to making the right API call to get that data into whatever I'm using as the application. So this is, for me as a developer, kind of an exploratory way of looking at the data and finding what I want. So let's take a look at what that means. Up here you can pick rows and columns. So I'm going to start out, this is looking at the loans that were given out to small businesses. And so we have a lot of data there. So I'm going to go ahead and just say that I want to look at the loan range that was given out. And right now I'm just going to be looking at the count of how many loans were given out. So I'm going to do this. It's going to give me a little table here with the range categories and then the counts of how many loans fell under that category. And a couple things, you can sort these things alphabetically or by their code value or just the natural order. And so we have a sort for the rows and we have a sort for the columns if you had any. You also have a display, so these are coded values. I can see the code, what's actually in the data, versus the meaning of the code name. And I can just toggle between what I want to show here for that. So, okay, great. I see that we have all these things here. Maybe I'm really only interested in the state of Tennessee, because that's what we're working with. So I'm going to come to the filters here, and I'm going to look for US, let's see, that's all there, state fits code. I can come here and search for Tennessee and say that's what I'm interested in, click out of that, and then retabulate. Great, so now I have, another tabulation, and maybe now I'm thinking, well, I want to see a little more detail than just the ranges. I want to see maybe the types of owners that are getting these ranges here. So we have a couple variables in there that you can search through. Let's see, owner. Okay, so we've got the gender, the race, and the veteran status of the owner. So maybe I'm interested in seeing the veteran status here. I can go do that tabulation. And now we see that we've got a column up here along with the rows over here, and that breaks it down even further. But I've got a lot of these unanswered ones, and so I don't really want those. I'm going to come here and select that, and I'm going to choose the ones that I want and apply that filter. And I'm going to run that again. Okay, cool. So now I've got the veteran status, and maybe I want to see the gender of these people too, just to really break it down a little further. And so now I've got this table here that's got the learn range broken out by the non-veteran male, female, and unanswered, and the veteran female, male, female, and unanswered too. So now you can start playing around with a couple other display options here in the UI if you want to. You can take out the column totals, the row totals, those types of things, whatever really helps you see the data a little better. You can also kind of flip-flop these rows and columns so that the ones you're using as columns before are used as rows. And so you can play around with this however you want and dig into adding the filters and things like that as you need to find that data set that you really want to work with. So let's say that this is what I want to do. I like this. This is what I want to work with in my application. How do I go from this UI to actually using this thing in my application? Well, we have a couple options here. The first is you can download this as an Excel or CSV file. The CSV file is just going to be plain CSV. The Excel is going to be formatted to look like this table here. So that's one thing you can do. You can download that. The other way to go if you want to use the API is we have our little code snippet generator. And so you can see here in this little tab we have the actual API call that was used to create this table. So if I go here, this is going to give me the all the data and actually the metadata. So we have all the records here. I know it's not formatted nicely. But we also have the variable information here, so you can get the descriptions for the variables and the names of the variables that are in this data set as well. So that would be one way, is to use just the API. And so this kind of gives us a quick start to find the data we want and then look at the API call that's being made to get that. Again, if you're using one of our open source SDK, you can use JavaScript or R, and I'm going to get the Python one in here as well. You can just copy and paste this code to use with those SDKs, and it will download this data set into your application, and you don't have to do any other work. You can just get started working with the data. So one more thing to mention, if you do want to know more about the variables that you can select from, we do have this little variable explorer over here. And so this will just give you kind of the details about the variables that are in the data set. So if you wanted to look at these things before you get started, this is where you can kind of figure out what's actually in the data set to start working with. Search here, and so on. And then once you're ready to go to the analysis, you can go back here and start playing around. So that's just a quick start to get started with the tabulation engine. If you need any other help, feel free to ask me